What is going on, garden fans? Welcome back to the Permaculture Homestead. In today's episode, I've got a video of me walking around the backyard food forest and just talking about what's growing on back there. There's really not a whole lot of direction, as always, in my walking tours. However, there's a lot of good information in the following video. Please, as always, give us that like. Please share this content and please subscribe. That all really helps us out and really supports the channel. Come on back and enjoy the journey. I'm at the home site right now and want to give you a full tour of the food forest right now. We're in the last month of spring, Zone 8, South Carolina, and there's a lot of things to check out. Lots of things happening. We pack densely and diversely out here in the food forest. So I want to start by talking about our Zone 1 garden. And I call it Zone 1 because it's right here on the back patio. We have a series of veggies and herbs growing back here. There's a small goji patch still coming back to life. Things like chamomile, carrots are all still hanging around from early spring. But I'm also starting to mix in and wood chip over and get some of our summer vegetables going. Basil, zucchini, green beans, kale, collards. I've been planting loofah out here. So I've got all these freshly wood chipped areas that are now getting our veggies ready for us. A whole new wave of veggies. And I'm going to continue to plant all over the food forest as we go along. There's some watermelon here coming up. Lots of basil, watermelon, peppers, things that we eat. Zucchini, we make a lot of zucchini breads. Now, there's perennial anchor objects here in this Zone 1 area. Things like a gem. Sweet gem apricot. It's been pruned up. Here's the tree species. Right next to it is an Elaeagnus, some nitrogen fixation. And we have another pineapple guava right here. So we have perennial objects sprinkled in with the annual Zone 1 food forest. To my left of the patio here, same story. We've been wood chipping and putting in veggies little bits at a time. Every week I'll plant out another plot. Here's one of a loofah. Got some loofah coming up. And I'm just going to trail that loofah up and over the trellis here on the back door. This has been a raspberry patch that has slowly died out on us. But there are still raspberries here, and I can do my part to kind of tip layer these and grow more raspberries. Other things coming in are passion fruit. We have a flower, ground cover flower. This is rose campion. And then if there's mint, of course mint. I put mint everywhere. So I've got this dense flower and mint ground cover that's kind of taken over in the wake of all the raspberries here. So this is all Zone 1 stuff. I call it Zone 1. It's right here on the back patio. As we move out further, things get a little thicker and a little bit more jungle-like. So I got this huge elderberry hedge. Let's touch on this really quick. It is starting to come to flower. It is a tremendously huge biomass right here. And at this point in the year, it's giving us a lot of shade to the back of the house and a privacy. Obviously, we're getting a bunch of privacy, a bunch of shade, which is going to be perfect as we come into summer. And it gets hotter throughout the year. You step back here a little bit, talk about this, just big broad picture here. So there's that hedge of elderberry. I've got a big line of trees going down here, starting with a pawpaw. I'm gonna look down the line here and just give you an idea of what's growing on. We have a pawpaw, we have a peach. I'm gonna walk down the swale. Here is a fig right next to it. I'm gonna keep walking down this swale. Here is a mulberry right next to the fig. And all these plants have this dense understory, this canopy thing going on below it. So I do have Elaeagnus, and I do have blackberries coming in and growing through and in this diverse spackling of trees planted very close together. You're not going to find many people online doing what I'm doing here. I know that there's a lot of guys who say they're doing permaculture, but they're not getting deep in on it. This rabbit is stuffing hay in her mouth. She's probably about ready to give birth. She's made a nice little nest here within the past 2 days. So I'm thinking tonight is going to be the night that she gives birth to babies. And I'll probably come out here in the morning and have little bunnies jumping around. I'm going to keep walking down this big swale. and then just kind of give you a view, glossing, big view of that whole swale patty that we just walked down. Once again, you're not going to find many people gardening like this out in the YouTube community. So here's another, once again, a hedge of elderberry and eleagnus. I've pruned them down some. I'm shaping them into the food forest. There's another peach tree in that giant polyculturing of food. And there's also 2 pineapple guava, which are flowering. So these plants are getting a lot of shade, but that does not matter for Zone 8 South Carolina. These shrubs are used to being low-lying. They're not huge trees, they're shrubs. They don't mind getting a little shade. So these eleagnus will produce for us and kind of fill in the space here on the opposite side of the tree line that we just walked down. Another peach tree with a food box underneath it. There's things like chives, chamomile, green beans, peas, all types of stuff growing. So much diversity out here. Here's a mix of blueberries and eleagnus growing. Blueberry. I've done potatoes in buckets again this year, garden fans, so sequential bucket gardening. I've got 2 here that are a couple weeks behind these right here. And I use only chicken, believe it or not, I use chicken manure and paper shreddings as the fertilizer for these buckets. So once I've got the soil in there and the potatoes in, I'll take the clippings from underneath the chicken pen, lay them on top, and water it in. That's been the best fertilizer for potatoes that I've found in these buckets, bucket style. There's 1, 2, 3 more things I'm going to go over here. This upper swale portion, we have a giant mulberry. Okay, and there's all types of sumac coming up. This is wild sumac, winged sumac. It puts on a nice little droop of fruit in the late winter. More gummy berry with a giant jujube tree. I mean, this jujube tree has finally started to tower up, and it's really tall. It's like 20 feet tall now. Nah, maybe not that tall, but it's like 15 feet tall. So that's a pretty tall jujube. It's flowered and is going to put on fruit. It's happy living amongst these shrubs around it. These shrubs around it are companion plants. They're helping out. And believe it or not, I do chop and drop these plants. So over the years, you can see that I've coppiced the winged sumac around this jujube. And now it's going to take time this year to spread out, get fatter and thicker. And I'll continue to prune these guys down. These are great chop and chop. Another pawpaw here in this upper swale patch. There's pawpaws all over the place, garden fans. Here's one I'm growing new this year, Camilla sinensis, green tea. And I've got it living currently under a peach tree. I mean, once again, this is a small shrub. It likes to be in some dappled sunlight and mixed sunlight and dappled sunlight throughout the day. So I got it living under a peach tree that's also been dwarfed down. I've got this giant hugel mound in the back of my property here. This is the top of the property. We're at one of the highest points. And there's a giant polyculturing of food over here. Okay, we've got anchor trees in the far back, the plum trees, but I've got this giant hugel mound with all types of shrubs growing on it. There's a ground cover currently of lemon balm and apple mint. There's a couple wild lettuces growing that I allow to grow. Lots of mint as a ground cover, and then pomegranate. Pomegranate out here flowering. Eleagnus mixed with eleagnus. More of that gummy berry. Here's more gummy berry. There is a nice understory. Here we go, shrub layer, blackberries. This is a Mexican beauty berry. Has a elderberry growing right through it. And then there's muscadine grapes that I'm trellising and working around the whole food forest. I mean, I'm trying to get this grape to do what it does, to climb, to walk around. So it's going to walk around this whole fence here. Hopefully, that's the plan, that's the goal. I do compost dog poop. I got a video on that. Are there any mushrooms? I don't see any mushrooms today, but I've seen mushrooms growing in the poop bucket. So we've got fungal growth, we've got things being broken down. It's probably about time for me to dig those buckets up. I got a video on that coming later. Here is one of the plum trees I was talking about. It seems pretty loaded right now. The wind does a great job pruning the fruit down. I don't come out here and pick any fruit off of the tree. Usually it blows enough of the fruit off. Any bug-eaten fruit drops too. And the chickens, which live under here, are generally the first ones to get it. Once again, here's that Muscadine grape that I'm kind of trellising, and I'm going to work it around the food forest. I mean, it really feels like art to me right now, and less like gardening. I'm kind of trellising this mulberry tree here over the chicken coop and shed area. So there'll be a nice little mulberry archway here in my yard. It really is going to be this kind of secret garden of survival in my backyard. Garden fans, this is just the last month of spring. We're coming into summer, and this place is looking thick and diverse right now. There is so much going on, and so much that I haven't even talked about or showed you. We've got chickens growing, I've got rabbits coming in. We're doing our best to be as self-sufficient as we can in the suburbs, and this is how to do it. I see a lot of guys out there on YouTube who don't companion plant, who just put up an orchard and say it's permaculture. This is truly permaculture and rewilding the land. This is wild for sure. Appreciate you all watching. Please give us that like, please share this video, it really helps us out, and please subscribe. All of those things really help us out if you really want to support this. If you have any more questions or want to talk personally, please just put a message down in the comments. Appreciate all y'all. God bless.